Are you trying to get your shift together?
Welcome to the Shift Sisters podcast, where real conversations inspire real transformations. We're not experts, but we're experiencers. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Jennifer Richter.
We're your Shift Sisters.
Whether you're shifting like a sloth or it looks like you're having an exorcism, this is your space to breathe, reflect, and remember. We're here to talk shift with you. Welcome back, Shifties. We're so excited to have you here for episode 2, the first cracks. And we're not talking about the WTF cracks up here on my face. We're talking about the first cracks in our lives, right? Where did the first shifts start? And we don't even need to get stuck in the mud and essentially in the very first earliest cracks, but just like when you started to notice them and how you experienced them. So, the moment you realize something in your life is off, but you can't return it. This is not Target, right? When the foundation you were standing in is no longer solid. So we're going to get into that today. Have you ever really looked around at your life that should feel fine and thought, why does this not feel the same anymore? And what changed?
Yeah.
So whether your cracks look big, like emotions, or quiet questions maybe, or a full-on burnout, which I think I've had all of them, we're going to go 5 soul shifts deep today about our first cracks. And per usual, we're going to start with our forecast, our shift forecast, and how we're feeling today. I know I feel better after just having some food. Goodness.
Yes.
What's your shift forecast for today, Sandra?
Jennifer. So today I am feeling full rainbow. So that's all the feelings at once, and it all comes together and feels beautiful. So my outfit is a little colorful today. So I got some pinks and some blues and some greens and the matching headband and all of that because I just want to emanate all the things, which are good, bad, and all create me. So yeah, I'm feeling all of it today, but it's also just really beautiful and uplifting, and I love seeing a rainbow. So here I am. A
It's so
rainbow.
funny that you say that because literally, when we were talking before we started recording about the color therapy and all the cool, just inspiration of fabric and color that you bring, literally, that is the exact forecast that popped into my mind.
Amazing. We are vibrationally in sync, my soul sister.
So in sync, girl. You are multicolor magic.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And sometimes I don't feel like that, but when you put on a good outfit or you wear something, like the other day, Jennifer, you had like the most fun multicolored nails. I was like, I need that in my life. I need that inspiration. So
Yes, that was so fun. I ended up seeing I don't know, Charlotte, she's all into the girly stuff and everything, and she's my only girl, and the boys don't care about that color stuff. And I was like, sorry, I was trying to find my shift forecast, and I was like, where's my shift forecast? I need to see my list. But I was looking at nails on Pinterest because that's what she does now, right? And she's been growing her nails out and she wants them to be, really well taken care of. And I'm like, man, you care a lot for being 11. But yeah, so she pulled up Pinterest, this thing came up, and it was this girl that did half and half on each nail.
yeah.
And it was all these kind of vibrant colors. And I don't know, I just loved it. And I was like, I have to recreate this somehow.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, my bathroom looks like a nail salon because I got all those thin shelves and I could lay all my nails out. And I love it because when you're going to the bathroom, you're planning your next nail design. And yeah, so I created it and it was so fun. It didn't stay very long, but it was a lot of fun. I loved it.
Yeah. Wherever you can incorporate color in your life, you should. That's my motto.
Oh my gosh, there was this emotion on the forecast, and it's so funny because it says hot and humid, which I don't want you to think like I'm sticky and I need deodorant or anything, but I mean, I'm in Florida, it's always humid here, but, it means you're feeling spicy and flirty.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
Is that what you're feeling today? Spicy and
Yes,
flirty?
girl, my husband better watch out.
Listen, the lion's coming out to play, girl. I
Lioness, honey, brace yourself, brace
sorry, lioness. Excuse me.
yes, yes. I mean, I know I do have a big mane and all, but
Oh, it's
mhm,
perfect. It's perfect. I love that. Like it's just it's funny how, you one would think hot and hazy can be just like heavy and but it's not.
uh-huh,
It's like there's passion and there's like something in the air and oh, I love it. I love it.
mhm. What are you sipping on today?
So I am sipping on. So I made a drink to help me. So I've been having some like health issues, and I'm kind of dealing with some blood pressure. Like in there are inconsistencies. Like sometimes it's really high, sometimes it's lower than it should be.
Mhm.
So I bought this big old bag of beetroot, and I said, "What am I
Mm.
going to do with this beetroot powder?" And it's organic and beautiful. So I made today a pomegranate beetroot spritzer.
I need to see this
It,
because I bought beetroot powder like a month ago, but not for this reason.
girl, I did not come prepared because I have it in one of these.
Okay, okay, that's okay.
But
I'll use my imagination.
I'm going to take pictures. Don't worry, I'll send.
Okay.
But I will post those. But it's a beautiful, like ruby color.
Mm.
It's pomegranate, 100%, pomegranate juice, some like a little bit of lime, and some beetroot and some seltzer water, some sparkling water. And it's
Ooh.
refreshing. And people tend to think like, oh, beetroot, it's going to taste so earthy. It doesn't. It's really, it's light and refreshing. Like I feel like this is going to be a summer drink for me. And it also has its health benefits. So that is
And
why.
it blended up okay? The beetroot powder and everything?
Yes, yes, it's
Mm.
not grainy or gritty at all. So I don't know if, and I didn't put
Mm.
so maybe about a cup's worth of the pomegranate juice and the rest was the seltzer. So it's really it's really got
Hmm.
the light.
I'm gonna have to did you say you sweeten oh, no, the pomegranate juice itself is sweetened, so
Yes,
okay, yeah, so I had bought the beetroot powder because, when I went to that retreat, they did these fantastic lion's mane steaks, and it looked exactly and tasted like a steak and the texture and stuff, and they did this, like, beetroot reduction
yes.
that was with the powder, and, I make a no-mato sauce, which is for people that are like, it's called an AIP diet, autoimmune
Mhm.
diet or whatever, and they can't have like certain nightshades and acidity type things, or I don't know the exact situation because I don't have AIP, but I would make a non-tomato style sauce for them and I would use beets. So
Oh,
then I
wow.
started thinking, I wonder if I could use the powder too because it does have a different taste. It's less earthy in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it tastes earthy at all.
No, and I'm a matcha lover, so and I love matcha because it tastes like dirt, which is
Dirt.
I know it's totally weird, but I
It's
love
a
that
nutrition
earthy. I
deficiency when
know.
you eat it, yes.
I gotta go into that. But this stuff, I was just like, this is really good. And I, in one of my future signature sips, I have like warm beet drinks that I've already tried that I'm going to share. I mean, I know
Wow.
it sounds off,
I wanna
but
try the weird shit.
I tried them and they're so good. So I have to say,
Mm.
we talked
I'm
about creativity, and I love
yes.
being creative with our signature sips.
I'm writing this down. Pomegranate juice,
Hmm.
beetroot powder,
Yes.
and then sparkling.
Yep. With a little bit of lime.
Okay. Oh, lime. I missed that part. Okay. Dang. Okay, I'm gonna try that.
Yes.
Well, for your full rainbow, you have a couple oil pairings with it if you would like to know
Let's hear it.
about your oils and the emotions to go with that. So, ylang ylang.
Mm.
Some people call it lang lang and all sorts of ylang ylang. They just get crazy with it. But it's a ylang ylang and it's a beautiful flower actually. But it is the oil of the inner child.
Oh.
And it um, induces positive feelings of playfulness, freedom, intuitive, emotionally connected, healing, joyful, and innocent, which is so awesome. Says ylang ylang is a powerful remedy for the heart. It reconnects individuals with the inner child and pure, simple ways of the heart.
And
I
I'm
love
bringing
that.
my inner child to the conversation today. So this is actually
Ooh,
really apropos to what we're going to do today. So I love that it's all connected.
it is. And the other oil that goes with that, which I like to make the blend,
Hmm.
is wild orange. And that is the oil of abundance. And wild orange addresses a wide variety of emotional issues. It inspires abundance, fosters creativity, and supports a positive mood. And it addresses sense of humor, again, playfulness, spontaneity, all of the things. You're so in alignment. This is awesome.
I love feeling that when it's all coming together.
It
So
is. It is good. It makes you feel like you're actually doing something right.
mm,
Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? No, just joking.
amen.
I'm like, 'cause sometimes we want to know that we are actually doing something right.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Inhale color, exhale an emotion. So this is our breath work for today before we get into talking shift.
Let's do it.
It's called rainbow rounds. And this is so spot on for you, right? Because you were talking last time about when you have your quiet time. Some people call it meditation. You don't get just quiet, you create the scene, you create an environment. And so this is very similar. We're going to do 7 breaths in
Okay.
and 7 breaths out, meaning seconds. When they say 7 breaths, it's like
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's think about what color comes to us that we're inhaling, right?
Hmm.
And then we're going to exhale the emotion. So let me tell you the negative emotion really quick of yelling, yelling, and maybe that's something you want to exhale.
Hmm.
So the negative emotion is opposites, right? Joylessness, stressed, over analyzing, sad, disconnected from the inner child.
Okay.
So those are some of the things emotions you could be releasing when you breathe.
Okay.
So let's do 7 in. Ready? And does it help if I count when we breathe in so that everybody else can breathe in 7?
Let's do it
Okay.
again, and we'll
Okay, I'll
count
count.
together.
You guys breathe.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale that emotion. Did you see a color when you were breathing in?
Yeah, I was breathing in bright canary yellow. Uh,
Ooh.
bright canary yellow, and that's not my color. Like
Write
a
that down. See what, because
yeah.
there's always, I don't know if you know this, there's like spiritual meanings
Hmm.
behind colors and stuff. You should look that up.
Yeah, for sure. But yellow was like prominent, so it felt
Mm,
good. Nice.
good.
Cleansing.
I love it. So let's see what we're going to get into today. I want to talk some shift,
Hmm.
and we want to talk today about the first cracks. And remember, the soul whispers before it screams, just like your mom. You know your
Oh.
you know your mama told you something 3 times with love and kindness and calmness, and y'all were taking advantage of it, and then she's screaming her full head off, ready to tie you up like a hog,
Mhm.
and she told you first. Y'all
Yeah.
didn't listen, and the soul is the same way. It's giving you these small little nudges and signs and cues, and we're blowing them off and we're not listening to them. And then when it becomes a big issue, then we really are forced to face it.
Yep.
So we're going to work through these first cracks through our 5 stages of the shift that we talked about, which the first one, if you remember, is the nudge. Something
Mhm.
is off, but you can't name it yet. So, Sandra, what moment in your life first made you feel like something was no longer a fit, even if you couldn't explain why?
Ah, that's a good one. So, when I was reflecting back on this, there was one scene in my life that I remember that's always stuck with me. And I never understood the significance because I said, it was a silly like moment with my brother and I, and what meaning does that have?
Mhm.
But when I look at that was kind of the catalyst to other things that happened. I
Hmm.
say, okay, that makes sense. So I grew up in the 80s, and I hung out with friends, and of course, music was a big thing at the time. So New Kids on the Block was out, and all of the boy bands and all of that, and I was like, I can't vibe with these. With what are these like five like little boys doing on a stage for me? They ain't doing nothing for me. And I remember like buying the posters. I remember doing all of this stuff, right? And I went along with the narrative of what I needed to be as an 11-year-old girl.
Mhm.
And at home, I went with the narrative of being the quiet little, cute girl in the corner kind of thing. So I was in this space of just kind of coasting and just going with whatever needed to be gone with my friends and my family. So one time, my brother and I would take walks. So we would just walk for blocks and blocks and blocks. And we walked into a record store, and he said, and back in the day, it was records and cassettes, yes. And he said, "Get whatever you want." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can get anything I want!" And I was so excited. And I went and I picked up, and I knew that it was. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So when I was given this treat, I said, I am going to really buy something that I want. And I remember making that decision. So I picked up Aerosmith's um, Permanent Vacation album
Mm.
and said, I want to get this. And he looked at me and was like, you want to get this? And I said, yes. And he's like, girl, I'm proud of you. You're not buying the, New Kids on the Block or all the other stuff. And I felt such pride because that was the first time I actually put my stamp out for someone else to see.
Mhm.
And it was positive, the reaction. And that and like that exchange gave me the permission to start playing around a little bit because I realized something is not aligning in me, in my actions and how I present myself to the world. Yet
Mm.
I want, in my choice of music, I want something a little more soulful or a little more connected as opposed to, these little boys on the stage. So that was for me the nudge that led to dipping my toe, then my foot, then my leg, then my body into shifting more towards the person that I needed to be as my authentic self.
Or in music lingo, you don't want no scrub. Like, you were like, "I learned that day I want a man, not a boy when I grow up." No.
Right? And, like, Steven Tyler, really? Like, I was an
Oh,
11-year-old girl, he was probably in his 50s at
oh
that time,
god,
but
he
I
is a
was just
character.
like, "This man is amazing." Listen to that voice and that cackle, like, the way
Yeah,
he
there's the power.
the
I
power,
think
right,
you
and
were probably really attracted to that, just
yes,
power and confidence and
yes,
yeah, that's
yes,
so I love that, that's adorable.
yes. How about you? What was
Oh
the
my
nudge for
gosh,
you?
a moment I first felt like something no longer fit, it was probably, I would say even a little earlier. My household was a very trashy, dramatic, unhealthy, um, home that you just had to survive in. So I have had like shift after shift after shift because that's what you had to do to adapt and survive.
Mhm,
My sister unfortunately didn't shift, right? She became a product of her environment and let all of the things around her consume her and she had to have that type of environment, but I was like, "Oh, hell no. I am going to adjust with the shifts and adapt and thrive." And I think the first one that I can remember, as sad as it sounds, or at least I feel like it's sad as a mom to say, I was 6 years old
mhm,
and I had to get myself up ready for school, had to have my own alarm, had to get to school, and there was never anybody to do it for me or with me. There was no one to make sure that I got there safe even.
Right.
And, we didn't live in a bad neighborhood per se, but it definitely wasn't, I mean, it was just a middle class area,
Mhm.
but there were a lot of predators
Ugh.
in that area.
Ugh.
And I remember walking to school, which was a really decent walk. Not 3 miles uphill in the snow kind of thing, but,
Up a
you
mountain.
know, it was a decent walk for a first grader. And, these trucks of predators
Mhm.
would literally drive by and they're like face smashed up against the window and they're acting all creepy and stuff. And I literally am like looking at them and my instincts, right? That survival, I could feel that I was like in danger and no one was gonna there to save me, right? So I had to think on my feet really quick, like, what am I gonna do if something goes awry?
Mm.
And I instantly was like, I'm going to start singing out loud, really loud to try to get the neighbors' attention so that I can start getting eyes outside in case these creepers try to like throw me in the back of the truck. So I'm like singing, like, today's going to be a good day or whatever it is, but I'm screaming it at the top of my lungs. And then,
Wow.
of course, the creepers in the truck are like, man, this little girl's psycho.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, I wanna give that vibe, dude, I'm not giving up without a fight, so don't
Yep.
even pick
Yep.
me, and, um, I didn't have anybody to talk to about
Mhm.
safety or security or how to use your intuition to know, if someone's a good person or not, but I could feel things were not right, and I was on my own, and it wasn't like kindergarten, right, in a completely different state where we had my mother taking me to school and I was getting there in a safe method. Things were changing. No one talked about it. No one prepared me for it. I literally was like thrown to the wolves at first grade,
Oh my
fight
god.
or flight. And so that's why, I'm a little spicy and I'll say I'll be up if I have to. But I think it's because I had to learn that defensive self-protection mechanism from a very early age, or it
Yeah.
could have gone bad in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
And for you to have that wisdom or that, some children would freeze or
Not even
would
notice
just
it.
right, not notice it
Mhm.
freeze or be overtaken by it. And
Sure.
you were just like, as your first grade self, like, I'm putting my mark on the world. This is how I'm gonna survive. That is incredible wisdom, really, and intuition that you had at
Yeah,
that
I think
moment.
it's just the universe. I really do. I have to say, like, my angels, my spirit guides, God, all of the things in the universe were literally like, we're gonna give her these whispers, right? And it's up to
Mhm.
her if she listens to it and what she does with it.
Right.
And I feel like pretty fortunate that I guess I just had my listening ears on and was able to, keep myself
Mhm.
safe through things for sure. Um, but is there a part of maybe your identity or your truth that quietly started to shift beneath the surface, either from that shift or another?
Yeah, so thinking about what that meant, that first rumblings of a shift, or
Mm,
it led me to understand that I have free will.
mm,
And that wasn't something that I had prior to that one little incident with my brother. So I'm, told what to do and what to wear and how to act
true.
and what to be. And I wasn't asked what I liked, what I wanted, what I needed. And at that point, I started realizing I need to work, I need to go back within and figure that out. So, as an 11-year-old child, I had to go back and say, I don't know who I am.
Mm,
I don't know what I like, what I don't like. I was incredibly awkward because I didn't feel safe or comfortable in my own skin.
mm,
Uh, and as I said, we were living in New York City in the 80s. We were living in housing projects. So we were always in survival mode, always.
mhm.
So when you're in survival mode, and I don't mean that, we couldn't figure out what our next meal was. I'm just
Right.
saying when you left the building, you just had to make sure you were okay and no one was following you or nothing was happening, right? And when you live in that state, in that heightened state,
Mhm.
there's no room for, hey, what do you like? What are your passions, right? Forget about that. You just want to make sure you survive another day.
Mhm.
So I started realizing at that time, I'm a full person and I can start expressing myself,
Mhm.
or deep diving within and saying, is this the music that I like? Is this the clothing that I like? Is this, just little things like that. And also, I lived in a very just very urban spot, and I didn't align with a lot of the things, the neighborhood kids were doing, right? So
Mm.
I also had to figure out, how do I make that choice, because I'm supposed to have friends, right? I'm supposed to do
You're
things.
like, "But all of you, you don't look very friendly."
Right. And I just didn't want to, I really struggled. I struggled hard. And for someone that really relishes in community and loves
Mhm.
friendship, I was so sad because I just felt like I couldn't find my way. And I didn't want to force a shift, but I was shifting without realizing that I was, and
Yeah.
then I started putting my own, forcing on it, right? So, oh, okay, I'm going to do this thing because I know that that's going to be well received and well liked,
Mhm.
and that wasn't the
'Cause
right way.
you're working off of other people's feedback and
Yeah,
reactions and things
yeah.
like that. So when you're marinating on, like, at this age, right? Like, I
Mhm.
like this kind of music and this, and you're discovering these things about yourself. Were you just like having creative time as a kid, like in your room and doing things, or like I'm just like, wow, that's a lot of reflection for 11-year-old girl.
Yeah, so I was the youngest of three, and my father passed away when I was 12. So there was a lot of big things happening around me, and I was so consumed with that. And when I had my alone time, I would create things. So I would make up games, and I would look around the house, and I found a paperclip, and I found a marble, and I found an empty coffee can, and I would call my brother in and be like, okay, we're going to play this game, and these are the rules. The rules are, you got to get the marble into the can without it bouncing, and all these things. So I try to figure out ways to get creative, because I think that was my soul's calling
Mhm.
with the limited resources that we had, right?
Yeah.
And I just was like, okay, we're going to, so, oh my gosh, it totally sparked a memory. So we had an art wall. I remember this. My
Mm.
my sister, my brother, and I, we would come together like once a week, and we would just cut out whatever paper we found, and we would create art and just put it on the wall. And I loved that time. And I said to myself, boy, if I can have more of this is what speaks to me. And I just, I didn't think it was important enough, right?
It
Because
was probably the art, but also the community of you with your siblings.
yes, and I said, this is the most amazing thing. And my sister taught me certain techniques, and my brother was really technical. So, and
Mm.
I was 7 years, 8 years, they're juniors, so I'm sitting there learning from my siblings. It was such a great time, and it also spoke to what really resonated with me. So I started learning that creativity was an out for me,
Sure.
with all of that as I processed. And I think I also learned the scary portion of you're autonomous, and you can make decisions, and you have free will, and that comes with a whole load of responsibility, and also conflict for me, and in my later years.
Mhm.
And I can go into that, but yeah,
That's
that those are
true.
some of the things that I learned.
Well, I feel like for me, I went from being a kid, obviously,
Mhm.
to having to be a much older child at 6 years old all of a sudden. But I realized, um, not at the time, but now that that's where a lot of my character was becoming um, developed because in my definition, character is what you do when no one's looking.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
something that we talk about in our household and different things. And I didn't have anybody looking. They didn't see what I was eating. They
Mhm.
didn't see, like, where I was going, if I was doing my homework. No one was checking in on me. My mother worked, in a factory, and then she was always exhausted and watching soap operas in bed after she got home. There was no parenting interaction. Um, and I just remember I could do whatever I want
Yeah.
and no one would know. And so I started thinking, well, what do I want to do? What would I do if no one was looking, right? And I have to say I'm pretty proud of myself. I ended up just being creative, right?
Mhm.
Because I was like, well, if I can do whatever my heart desires and I'm not going to get in trouble and no one's going to tell me I can't, I, like you, did all sorts of crazy things, right? I would, make up games, or I would completely make this backdrop and say, oh, we're going to create a play with the neighborhood kids. And I write the script out. And who knew that then I was already preparing for a podcast, making backdrops and writing scripts and things. But you don't know how what you're doing in your life actually is going to play out and be relevant
Yeah.
later down the line, like right now, 39 years later, here we are. But I realized that I liked helping people
Mm.
and that I liked being involved, but I also really enjoyed being with myself. Because if you
Mhm.
don't want to be around yourself, who the hell does? And there's so many people that, just don't ever want to be alone.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to find a way to enjoy yourself before you can share yourself with the world.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think as a kid, I was a little bit annoying to some of the neighborhood kids because they used to, I'm high energy, right? I'm like a German
Mhm.
Shepherd some days. And the neighborhood kids would always joke and be like, Jennifer, I think your mom's calling you. And boy, you better know if you didn't come when your mama was calling you, she
Yeah.
was going to whoop your butt.
Mhm.
And so I would go, and then my mom would be like, I didn't call you. And I'm like, damn it, they were trying to get rid of me. Which was a sign, right, that I, like, am
Right.
a little too much for other people. You should probably go have some alone time right now. But those were the things I was developing, right? Like learning how to read other people's social cues about my own energy,
Mhm.
um, how to express myself creatively by myself because I had no rules in a sense. No one was watching. I could do whatever. And so my character was developed in that way. And I'm grateful that, you know, I'm guessing the universe just led me. I don't really know, or maybe that's just who I am, but I know that's not the case for everybody. Some people really have to have those bumpers on when
Mhm. Mhm.
when it comes to character. But you were talking about the realization. What feeling hit you the hardest when things started to fall apart, and how did you try to keep it together even when it was tough?
I was utterly alone. And
Mm,
in the deepest part of my soul, I just felt like I was in a empty well, at the bottom of an empty well. And I couldn't figure out how to reach out and connect because the old Sandra was connecting inauthentically on the
mm,
surface, right? So she was just, oh, you like that? I like it too, and oh, I want
mm.
that too. And I didn't really want it. I didn't care for it. I
You were just
hated
trying
it.
to connect, yeah.
Yes. And then I couldn't. This is back, obviously I'm older than Google, right? This was before the internet where you can reach out to people who have similar interests. So when you're
Mhm,
in this space of folks that have, different views and life views and opinions and things, it's so isolating.
mhm,
And for someone that really craves connection, it just was hard. So that was the hardest piece. And I really tried so many ways to uplift myself in ways that, using, as I said, the creativity. And I also just loved singing.
mm.
So I would belt it out. Girl, the neighbors, the upstairs, downstairs, all around us, I would sing. And and what's interesting is my siblings would also sing, which was also
Hmm.
it's an interesting,
Were you
but
guys actually good?
well, you
Or is
know,
it just singing from the heart, not actually like from skill?
my brother and my sister were actually good, and
Ah,
I was just like, let me just be your backup singers. Like, let
okay.
me just, I want to be the Michael. I wasn't really the Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, but in terms of the age, yes, I was the
Yeah.
youngest of them. But um so that's why music to me in this stage of my life has been so important.
Mhm.
And when it's so funny, when I get nostalgic, the songs that I play are very obscure and, songs that are not, in the top 40, but
Mhm.
it just brings me back there. So I want to say that that loneliness, that deep, deep pain of isolation was the biggest emotion that came up for me.
Sure. It's heavy. I realized kind of like evolving from that first shift starting at around 6 for me. It was probably around that 12 to 13 age range. Um, I started realizing that I guess I kept expecting and waiting for my mother to care and
Yes.
to be involved and to notice me
Hmm.
in more ways, like to notice me as a person. Now, when other people are around, oh, I was her trophy, right? I was the entertainment. I was the something that she could brag about. She, used me as her like puppet for her attention. Kind of like is it called when like certain parents will pretend their kid's sick as it Munchausen?
Yes.
So it's something like that, but without the sickness, like to use me
Mhm.
as her trophy to make her look special kind of thing. And she would only do that when other people were around. But I was waiting for her to see me as a person and want to connect with me as her child
Mm.
and not as her trophy. And privately, she never did. And one day I noticed, I feel like it's been a really long time since my mom even said she loves me.
Yeah.
Even just loves me, like, "I
Yeah.
love you." And to me, that seems insane because, I express to I'm not one of those people on the phone that every time I hang up, I'm gonna say, "I love you," but when I feel it in my heart, I tell you. I
Yeah.
don't do things out of routine or obligation. I do them because they are in my heart, and I can't imagine not sharing or expressing my love for my children,
Mm.
and I noticed at that age, it's been a really long time. Let me see how long it goes. And I started like timing it. And I would even set up, orchestrate these moments and experiences, hoping that she
Hear that.
would express her care for me. And she just never did. And so I finally said, "Is there a particular reason that you don't tell me that you love me?" And of course, that is not acceptable in our home. We don't talk about real things. And I'm talking explosive. I come from a huge, long line of like violently angry people,
Mm.
violently.
Wow.
And when I say explosive, just over asking that question, it's unbelievable. People cannot fathom. And
Mm.
I'm talking about like house things will get flipped upside down. I'll probably get my butt tore up,
Yeah.
like all because I said, "Is there a reason that you don't tell me you love me?" And so I realized after that that external validation that we
Mhm.
kind of talked about, even when you're going through a shift, don't wait for permission from other people. I realized that I have to be okay with just loving myself for who I am
Mhm.
and understand that I don't think she even loved herself.
No.
And I don't know if she could extend love to other people because I don't think she loved herself. And in a very, very, very small way, I understood that at that age.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. So what was the prominent feeling for you? Was it, first of all, how brave was it for you to ask your mom that question? Like, even as a, 40 plus year old woman, I'm saying, like,
mhm.
wow, that is so brave to confront her that way.
Yeah.
So was it, did you feel rejected? Did you feel
Um, I don't necessarily know if I felt anything but shock in her response because it was such an outburst and it just did not match what I was asking and just trying to evoke a compassionate conversation. Um, and I was just in shock that asking a heartfelt question could land in explosiveness. And I was in shock. And then it really just sent me into that realization mode of, okay, Jen, um, how do you feel about this? And I realized, well, I guess I don't really need anything from her.
yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
been 6 years and I've been taking care of myself independently for the last 6 years, and I didn't need much, right? She gave me shelter, she gave
mm,
me food, which was disgusting, and she gave me clothes, which that's a whole funny story. But, so I guess she gave me the essentials, but I always was like, I guess that's it. I
yeah,
don't need anything else from her because I've gotten this far without it. And my father, right, the same thing. He was never present. And so I just realized, well, I guess I have everything I need right inside me,
yes,
which is, I guess, a weird thing to discover at 13.
yeah, yeah.
But, when did you, I mean, was there a moment that you felt like I have to fake it, or, were you okay with just being you out loud?
Yeah. Um, it got to a place that I just couldn't continue with the facade any longer. It was
Mm,
just too energetic and too uh,
like
painful to
draining, you
also,
mean?
yes,
Energetically draining? Mhm.
energetically draining. Like I needed too much energy to keep up
Mm,
facade and then to shift.
true.
So I couldn't do both, and I don't, it was it a decision? I don't know, but I started to exercise that little portion of me that said you can you cannot wear the things, or you don't have to
Do what they
interact with
do.
these people, and you could start making your own way. So I started to do that, and I started playing around with things because I still was in this space of haze, not knowing exactly, who I was or what I wanted, but I knew that I couldn't continue on because I was just feeling just more, my vibrations were just getting lower and lower, and I needed to get out of it. So I really tried, to try different approaches and tactics. And in that phase, I was really quiet and introverted, and I just followed the group. And then I shifted in a totally different way, which shocked everyone. And I think that was my, my way of saying I just can't fake this anymore. So I'm going to do
Mhm.
something totally different so that everyone can see I'm not the same person, and stop asking about that and leave me alone. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounded like you gave in and surrendered, right? Which
mhm,
was stage 3, you surrendered, and then that became your in between,
yes.
right? Where you aren't who you were, but you aren't who you're gonna be yet,
Hmm.
right? Which was that, I think, when you're at home and you're by yourself and you're going, well, I don't really like that makeup that she wore, but I just wanted to connect with her. But what do
Hmm.
I really like? And so that in between phase when you weren't who you were anymore, or who you were going to be, like, what did that look like?
So it was messy. It was without direction. I just kind of threw whatever I could on the wall and see what stuck. And
Mm,
I just I was really looking at deep diving into what is it that I want and that I need. And I knew that connection was one of that. I knew being outward was a part of me, because that's, I think, innately a part of my light, that I just want to just be, have presence, really. So I changed the way I dressed. I changed the way I spoke. I
Mm.
started hanging out with different people, and it was incredibly bold compared to what I was before.
How did
So,
people around you react to that?
girl, people were like, "Who is this chick?" My poor mother was. It was like one day to the next, she had a different daughter, right? And there were times where she would just like look at me, and I'm like, "What are you looking at?" Like I was a total bitch, and she's trying to help me in this time, and of course it's
Mhm.
in this young adult, not young adult, but I was a teenager, so 13, 14, 15, those pivotal years when you're shifting because of hormonal changes and all the things that are
Mhm.
happening.
Which also came after some other big shifts for you.
Yes, so there was the death of my father,
Mhm.
and then watching how the family dynamic responded to that,
Mhm.
where I couldn't even grieve because I had to hold that lump of my in my throat, since I was focused on everyone else, right? I was focused on else's grief and being a good girl and all that other stuff. I was shaking inside, and I was going to explode, and this was the explosion.
Mm.
And the explosion was to the whole world, and I just, don't tell me what to do, don't look at me, don't speak to me. I am in control of my decisions and my body, and it almost was cartoonish because I went in the total opposite direction, right? So
Mm.
instead of like collaborating with people or asking opinions, like, nope, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it, and I became and controlling,
Yeah,
and I
that dominant. Mhm.
yes, I
'Cause
became
you were tired of
very.
being a follower.
Correct. I felt like I was a nothing before. I
Mhm.
wasn't, and once again, not that the people around me didn't love me, didn't consider me. They were just also dealing with big, heavy things. So I also don't want to come across that I was just abandoned, because
Sure.
I was loved and I understand that, but
You
I
weren't
needed
accepting any of it though either probably at that time.
I was needing something else, right?
Mhm.
And it was hard to express that. I don't come also from a family that's like sitting around talking about feelings, because
Sure.
we were in survival mode, right? When
Mhm.
we're in survival mode, everything else goes to the wayside.
Yep.
So being in that space and then coming into my own as a young woman was my time of just, hello worlds, here I am. And with that came that shift really. I don't know if I want to say that it was, I don't know how to phrase it, but it just um lots of things came from that shift that wasn't all positive. And
Sure.
major negative impacts in my life that I've dealt with for many many years and still deal with to this day.
Right.
So,
And I mean, it's one of those things, it's like you're cleaning out a storage unit, right? It's
Mhm.
gonna be messy as crap before you can get it sorted out and organized.
Absolutely. And it's just like I still have, those boxes, those lingering boxes with the cobwebs in the storage unit, and I need
Mhm.
to, as I take this season of my life, to really clear that out. But that was major for me, that period. And I'll go into it a little bit more during this conversation, but there's just the after effects,
Well, we're gonna get out the dustbuster and clear out those cobwebs, girl.
I hear it. How about
I
you?
Oh my gosh. Everybody around me, I think, were, I've always been like, in a sense, the entertainer, right? Because that's what I had to do to get my mother's approval. And, I would always be expressing myself and sharing the things that I was into at the time or the creations that I was making. Um, and so with that, everybody was always fascinated as to the things that I wanted to talk about or be into. But it was this weird silent thing when I actually sat with it and surrendered in a sense, to realize there's a big part of me that is exhausted from
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I actually don't enjoy intentionally being the entertainer or the
Mhm.
trophy child.
Mhm.
I sometimes just want to be, and
Yeah.
sometimes I want to be quiet, and sometimes I don't want to engage. And that was not accepted, right, in my family, and I was definitely called a ton of names growing up, a lot of them derogatory, which I would never repeat out loud. But the one I can repeat was being, what is it called? Preppy, right?
Mm, mhm.
Like, they would be, "Oh, you think you're better than everybody else." Well, I just realized I wanted to hold myself to a higher standard.
Yeah. Yes. Amen.
And than they did, and a different standard, right?
Mhm,
I
mhm.
wasn't basing my model off of them. I was literally basing it off of myself and what I wanted for myself, and they teased me and taunted me for that.
Mm,
And it was what it was, but I was like, some of the things I took to heart a little bit, but I really went into the rebuild in a sense, which it sounds like that's where you were going, right? You're not who
mhm.
you were, you're not quite who you're becoming, but something's shifting and you started to feel this power in making the decisions and leading the creative projects. And, you finally admitted to yourself like that you couldn't do that crap anymore.
Right.
But what are some of the things that you let go of? Are there certain beliefs, relationships, different pressure that was put on you? Like mine was the entertaining, and I was like, screw it. If I don't want to, be your little show monkey, then I'm
Mhm.
not going to do it.
Yeah. So I obviously let go of the idea that I had to fall in line. That was,
Mm,
the biggest thing that I had to let go of. And I said, I no longer have to fall in line and I'm going to do what feels right for me.
which sounds military. Your dad's military.
Yes, my dad is
Mhm.
military. And I had, as I said, this dominance, but it's also with that I keep saying the word control, but that's what it was. And life happened to me, and many instances happened to me that were beyond my control.
Mhm.
And then there was this energy difference of, well, I have I could fix everything, I can make everything happen, and then something happened, and then I didn't have foresight about it, or it
Yeah,
just
no plan for that,
I had
right?
no plan. And then my internal world started to break down because I couldn't fix what I didn't know. So I started getting anxiety and panic attacks. And then I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And it started to build because I'm this new person, but I don't have all of the strength to handle the personality that is now shifted.
Mhm.
So I couldn't figure out how do I control everything? How do I make sure it goes my way?
Mhm.
And I also started to then figure out ways to control myself. So I started to engage in certain behaviors that were not healthy.
Mhm.
So with the anxiety, I I started figuring out ways to. So I would go to school in the city and I would take a bus, and it would take forever if I took a bus, but I could have taken a train. But trains, if you get on a train, you're enclosed. How about if you get sick? How about if someone attacks you? So I would
Mhm.
take the extra hour to get to school on a bus because a bus is safe. So I started creating these scenarios of safety versus not safety, right, in my mind. And I started to then eliminate certain things in life. So at one point I was seeing therapists about it because my mom was just like, something is, you really need some support. And one of the therapists said, you're agoraphobic. And I said, what is that? And they said, you're afraid to leave your home.
Oh, okay.
And I said, because I would kind of bunker in, I would just stay home because I was
Mhm.
just so afraid of the outside and what I couldn't control. So I started creating these really unhealthy habits to mitigate this shift that I was experiencing.
Mhm.
And those things in my body, or those things that I could control, gave me a false sense of security. Okay, I can, on the weekends, I can stay in all weekend and I don't have to do anything and I can just do this and do this. So, with this shift, this big shift that took place, I started to develop because I wasn't ready, or maybe it wasn't the right shift for me, or I'm not sure what the full formula is, but
Mhm.
I feel like I started to create these things. Uh, I also had this like unrealistic notion that I one of my teachers thought I was bulimic.
Hmm.
And she came up with that diagnosis because before school, I would be so nervous because I had to
Mhm.
travel and all of that, I would make myself throw up. And
Mhm.
it wasn't food related, it was control related. So if I get all this out of my system,
Yep.
I'll be okay. And I had a guidance counselor session, and something came up about that, and so she started tracking me, and she would watch me in the lunchroom, and I wouldn't eat during lunch and all of that. And then I would come home and I would binge eat because I just couldn't
Yep.
handle all of that. So those are some of the maladaptive behaviors that I just created around this shift that I had. And
Mhm.
I didn't realize how long lasting they would be, because even now, when I have a really stressful moment, I want to throw up. And
Mhm.
it's not the nervous that people tend to talk about, right? So, oh, I'm nervous and my stomach is turning. It's like, no, if I throw up, I'll feel better.
Mhm.
Meaning,
So you're like,
all
"Let's hurry up. Let's just get to the point. I don't
right.
wanna drag this out, and I don't wanna feel like this forever. Let's just get it over with."
And I've always related it. I have like a whole journal entry on this in my own personal journal
Mm.
about getting it out. That's the theme. So if I get it out, I feel better. And physically, what that is throwing up. And it's not that's not the answer. The answer is getting out whatever I need to get out. So
Interesting.
so this is a huge, when I think about my initial shift, my first shifts and kind of the rebuilds and all of that, it's a big part of a chunk of my life. And it's something that, going back and looking at those shifts, I'm still continuing to process now.
Do you have a vibration plate?
Oh my goodness. So I was telling Michael that I wanted to get a vibration plate, and I wanted it for, I have lipedema in my legs, which is like
Mm.
that nodule, like fibrosis in my legs.
Mhm.
And I heard that it helps break it up, but obviously this is not the context in which you're talking about it. So
No, it came to me when you were talking about getting it out, right? Because emotions can stay stagnant in our body and they'll find like a weak spot. And that's where it'll start, causing issues too, like even physical things for our body if we don't process them.
yes,
And when there's movement, and I used to be a massage therapist, so, like, if someone's trying to hold their arm up, I would, like, jiggle it a little bit to get them to relax the muscle to let
mhm,
me, help to process the things out of their muscles, and it made me think of the vibration plate when you were talking about getting it out because, you can also put your grounding mat, 2 for 1, right, on top
yeah,
of your vibration plate because I know you use the grounding mat.
yes,
And then the vibration too, it, helps clear out your lymph
yeah,
and your cell circulation and things like that. But I thought, what emotions could you actually hold on to without struggle, right? On a
hmm,
vibration plate? Because it's going to jiggle it right out of you.
yes,
And Ashton, my 18-year-old, he uses the vibration plate daily. That's it. Yes, that's his thing because he's like, what do they call him? A biohacker.
yeah.
He's all about like the health optimization and everything. And yeah, he uses it regularly, but I never put two and two together. Also, I think when he started using the vibration plate, I think he started becoming a lot more communicative about his emotions. And it never hit me until
Wow.
all of this. So, hmm, interesting. Maybe there's something to it.
Yes,
Oh, well, you'll have to try it. Get
I
one.
will.
I'll take a picture of the one we have. I know there's a ton of different ones out there, but it it feels good all
Mhm.
over in your body, especially if you have inflammation and things like that. Um, so after the rebuild, right, and this change starts taking place inside of you, did you let go of any guilt or did you start trusting your gut more after you process this like way to manage the safety around you? Like,
Yeah. That's still, I think, something that, so I started to really get back into my body.
mm,
So I told you I started seeing therapists, and I know I needed help. So I saw a cognitive behavioral therapist, and I realized, okay, I can start using certain words or ways to help me get through these irrational thoughts that I had, right?
mhm.
I was just flooded with them. And I then started to realize that none of this, those thoughts and those feelings, that fight or flight, was my nervous system firing off, but it wasn't something that I needed to guilt myself of, right? So I
Mhm.
needed to give myself some grace and start thinking about what is actually happening in the now, in the moment, and when can I sit with this and start to dialogue with it. And that's why, we've talked about journaling and all of that.
Did
But
you start journaling early like
so
that?
I started journaling. So that big change in metamorphosis happened in my high school years.
Mhm.
And then when I was in college, I started journaling because at that point, I had seen about 15 different therapists
Sure.
from different modalities, and I still didn't feel like I was getting the relief I needed. And I also
Mhm.
started getting on medication, and that's a whole nother,
Yeah. Topic.
conversation.
Yeah, we'll have to really touch point on some therapies and different things at some point because I have so many thoughts behind it. And it sounds like you have a lot of experience and thoughts behind different therapies and how to navigate if you're really getting what you need.
Yes, yes, because I was a zombie. I was a total
Mhm.
zombie. And I wanted to feel the feels, but I also wanted to be protected and safe, and I could live my life. I didn't want to, avoid things or be in certain circumstances. So there was a lot of unpacking there, but I think I started to, when I in the rebuild portion of it, I started to give myself I was forgiving of myself some more.
Do you feel like you live differently now though and like have some positives that came out of that change that you went through?
Absolutely. I am in a space of do it anyway, even if you're scared. I'm
Which
in
I've
that.
seen you push through a lot of that recently, and you have had some great success, actually.
I have, and I think I have to remind myself that fear is not a full stop.
Mm,
Fear, it's not. It doesn't mean that you need to not proceed. It just means you're going to do it with with some jitters and with some energy there. So I'm really trying to do that, but I'm also aware that I'm sensitive and I need recharge time, and I need um, time to really cuddle myself. That's what I need in my life, is a lot of just support, love, and just feeling like I'm being
nurturing.
held.
Mhm.
And that will help me through that.
Well, I know for certain watching you just in the last couple months, you and I would talk about stuff and I'm like, "Ooh, girl, if you don't wanna do it, don't do it. Oh, you don't like that girl's energy? Don't have lunch with her." And I'm all like, "If you're not feeling it, it's a no."
Yes.
But I admire that you are always willing to just consider things, but you still sit genuinely with yourself to explore, um, how you feel about it, and then you make a decision to either cancel it or to go with it, and there's been multiple times that you have just gone with it, but that's also due to the fact that you are a person of commitment. If you always do what you say, and if you commit, you do follow through. And so I think that's another part that has pushed you right past
Mhm.
the uncomfortable. And you have had a lot of surprising success and joy out of those things that you didn't see coming. And it made me look at, or has made me just start to look at, oh, what should I push myself a little bit further in
Mm.
on what I naturally just don't wanna do, right? And so I'm trying to look at the opportunities there because of your experience.
Mm.
And so, well, as we wrap up today and we notice what was starting to crack but not break, we want to think of a moment in our lives that felt off, even when we couldn't explain it.
Mhm.
So you have to ask yourself these things. What part of yourself no longer fits the roles of and expectations around you? And that's this week's shift activation. We want you to look at that part of yourself that no longer fits the roles and expectations around you. So think about that, journal it, and we're going to leave you with this shift reflection that cracks are not your undoing. They're where the light starts to get in, right? And it's super important to remember that. There is an amazing book. I'm going to probably butcher the last name. And Sandra, you might have heard of this book, but it's called When Things Fall Apart by
Mhm.
Pema Chodron. It's a super fancy name, so I can't pronounce it because it's like with the O's and the dots above it and whatever. But it's for those with that quiet unraveling, right? So this book is about grounding in the midst of change and loss and uncertainty. And she reminds you that, life breaks open sometimes and we don't have to run to fix it right away. We
Right.
can lean into the discomfort and find clarity in the chaos. So, that's a total book I recommend. You can get it at your library, you can buy it, you can do audiobooks. There's free audiobook resources. But this I'll leave you actually with the next little resource I was going to share. We'll talk about it next time because it's actually a fun little practice that I'd like to do, but it's called a somatic practice. So remind me, we're going to do a somatic practice next time. Again, that TED Talk, remember The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown, was a great one. And so whether today, talking shift with us sparked a new perspective or brought something old to the surface or simply just made you feel a little more seen, we are absolutely glad that you chose to be here. So take a moment to check in with yourself, see what's shifting right now. We love to support you along your journey and share this episode with someone shifting or simply that just needs to get their shift together. But you don't have to tell them that part.
That's right.
Your shift toolkit will be available for download for this episode, and we want you to go sip something yummy. You can share your fun sips that you're creating with us on the website if you want to share that. And we hope that you take a deep breath this week, breathe in those colors, exhale those emotions, and know that you always have us to talk shift with.
And that's it for today's shift. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us. If you're loving the conversation, become a shifty. Like, follow, subscribe, and most of all, share this episode with someone who's shifting too, or someone who seriously needs to get their shift together.
Do you have thoughts, questions, topic requests, or maybe you're feeling the nudge to collaborate? Visit us at shiftsisterpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're so grateful for your presence, your friendship, and your willingness to do the work with us. Because shift happens and we're not meant to do it alone.
We'll meet you back here next time to breathe, reflect, and talk shift.